What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here. And as we get into the off season, that commences interview season. We've got a lot of players with a lot of free time on their hands. And what do they do with that free time? Well, they make some interesting comments. So we're going to reflect on those today. We've got a few from around the NFC East, including some comments that are not only interesting, but positive from an Eagles player itself. So we will get into those as well. Before we do, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube page. We'll be back with our full show this week. Kevin and I breaking down everything Eagles and Cowboys, and have a few interviews on tap coming up this summer. So without further ado, let's get into it. There were some interesting comments. Like I said, a lot of interviews going on, a lot of people doing their charity events, and of course they get interviewed there. We talked about Saquon Barkley last week saying he won't sign his contract with the Giants. Well, we've got another player on the Giants making some comments, and I don't know if I agree, but I think it's interesting to point out. So Kayvon Thibodeaux was on Good Morning Football NFL Network, and he talked about the kind of standings in the NFC East and how tough it is. There were 3 teams in the playoffs last year, including his Giants, but obviously the Cowboys and Eagles were there as well. And if you look at the Vegas odds to win the NFC East this year, the Eagles are the odds-on favorite at plus 100. The Cowboys are at plus 175. And way back, you have the Giants at plus 600. So it looks like, according to Vegas, it's a 2-horse race. And they asked Thibodeaux about that. And they asked about how he had lost to the Eagles 3 times last year and they won a division. Here was his quote. I mean, it's been good for me. I like to lay low. I'm happy that people are counting us out because that gives us more time to just work. We don't have to answer those questions. We don't have to worry about everybody looking at us. We can just keep our head down and grind. And I think, we love being underdogs because that always gives us that story, that momentum to really work and go after what we want. All right. So I think a lot of Eagles fans will be like, don't play the underdog card. That's our thing. Just don't steal our thing, everything like that. But I do agree with his quote for 2 reasons. First and foremost, I agree from a fan's point of view. I love when my team is laying low, not in the headlines, and there are 0 expectations. I think when Philly teams have high expectations, that's when they falter. You look at the Eagles. When has been our most disastrous kind of seasons? The Dream Team, unreal expectations, and that was a dumpster fire. And then at 2, I would put the year after the Super Bowl. Obviously, high expectations. You won the Super Bowl. And they snuck into the playoffs as a wild card that year, but it was a mediocre season for a lot of that. And it was looking pretty bad until Foles took over and kind of went on that run in December. But for the majority of that season, we were like, are they ever going to put this together? Like, is this over? They went into Dallas and you thought the season was just over when they lost in overtime and they were getting torched by Amari Cooper. So I am all with Kayvon. When you are able to put your head down and there is no pandemonium around what's going on in your facility, and you can kind of just go in and work, and you don't really have to worry about these interviews. You don't have to worry about the pressure of being odds-on favorites. I like that a lot. So I wish that was that way for the Eagles, but obviously this season is not going to be that, as evidence of the fact that they only have 3 1 p.m. games and everything else is in primetime. So yeah, a few people may be tuning in to see the Eagles play this year, and that creates a lot of expectations. And we'll see how that plays out because, like I said, every Philly team seems to really stumble when you put any amount of pressure on them because pressure kind of amounts in this city. And 2, I'm okay with him saying this because this is reading the room. And I think there are a lot of NFL players these days who don't read the room well. And it would be easy for them to say, oh, I don't get it. These odds are dumb. I don't care what the odds say. We're the team to beat. For instance, there was a Packers player the other day who said Jordan Love was the best quarterback in the NFL. Okay. Dumb. You're just putting unreasonable expectations on Jordan Love. You're not actually supporting your guy. So if Kayvon comes out and says, yeah, we're better than the Cowboys, we're better than the Eagles, that creates unreasonable expectations for a team who was not better than either of those teams and lost to both of them last year 5 times total. So it's okay to read the room and be like, yeah, we're the underdog. We'll just work until we're not. Easiest way to handle things. I'm glad he did that way because you just can't go on Good Morning Football, the biggest NFL show in the country, on NFL Network and say, oh yeah, those odds don't make sense. We're the team to beat in the NFC East this year after losing to the Eagles 3 times last year when they won the division, including getting stomped in the playoffs 38-7. So even though the underdog thing is kind of us, I totally agree with Kayvon. I'm okay with him saying that. Now, let's flip over to a defensive end on our team, the Eagles. Haason Reddick. Again, I talked about this. A lot of people doing their charity events. Haason Reddick, local guy, was back in Camden doing his event, and his quote stuck out in an eye-popping way, but positive. Usually when we're talking eye-popping ways for people, it's bad. For him, I couldn't believe it. So he was asked about just his record-breaking season last year. It was his best as a pro, and he said to reporters, "I'm in great shape. As crazy as it sounds, I feel like there's still more levels for me to tap into. I'm extremely excited and looking to build on another great year. I want to continue to progress on what I did and what the team did last year." The part that he thinks he still has levels to tap into is wild to me, coming off a 16-sack season. I think if you were going to sign up for the production value of Haason Reddick last year, you would do that time and time again as an Eagles fan. So the fact that he thinks he still has levels to tap into is wild to me. But also, I feel like they need that. Brandon Graham is a year older, and this could be like the final swan song for him. So what will his production value be at age 34? Derek Barnett is coming off a torn ACL. We didn't really trust him to begin with. Now add major ligament surgery. What will that look like? I don't really know. So I think they actually need Haason Reddick to tap into a new level. And then you've got new guys on the line like Jalen Carter. Jordan Davis is a year older and still learning. He's kind of like a project. Fletcher Cox, another guy, a year older like Brandon Graham. When will this be it? So they need a ton of help on the defensive line because whether we admit it or not, I think there are some question marks. They're not red flags to a point, but there are some things you're like, oh, this could go the wrong way. So the fact that he can tap into another level is fantastic. I'm so excited about that. And I've been watching this video. I posted it on my my Twitter, and I posted on the Birds vs. Boys Twitter as well. Make sure to follow there at Birds vs. Boys 5. The video of the defensive ends rushing Patrick Mahomes and both slipping and falling, I will just run it back in my head forever and ever. The dumbest what if in Super Bowl history. What if they had functional grass? I can't believe that I have to spend the rest of my life saying to myself, if only they had grass that was usable. In the Super Bowl, in the biggest event that our country hosts, they didn't have grass that people could stand on. And every single play, we just slipped around. Now, I'm not taking away from the Chiefs. Mahomes is obviously incredible. I thought that they just schematically were just head and shoulders above Jonathan Gannon, and the Eagles defense looked lost a lot of that time. But I think part of the reason why they looked lost is because they were just so helter-skelter because they couldn't get their footing at any point, especially during the second half. We couldn't get pressure on the quarterback, which was a lot of what they were able to do during the season to force turnovers, to force people into sacks, everything like that. So you're behind the line of scrimmage, and they couldn't do that to Mahomes in the biggest stage of the season because of the freaking grass. It is the dumbest thing in the world. But as we know, we have a chance of redemption. We have a chance of revenge this year. We'll play the Chiefs. We'll play it on better footing, and hopefully we're playing it with a Haason Reddick that has topped into the next level. So that's it for today. Like I said, subscribe to this video because we'll be back with our regular shows. Kevin and I, we're doing YouTube shorts for both the Cowboys. So he'll tackle everything that they're talking about. I'll tackle everything that the Eagles are talking about. We'll come together and do our full show with a bunch of different interviews. So make sure to tap into that. And we will be back later this week. We'll talk to you then.
Chris Hansen here, and I'm going to need you all to take a seat right over there and check out Birds vs. Boys.
I think you're completely right here, and I hate it.
Yep. Hey, idiots. Stop doing dumb things. I got 2 phones.
Upset alert. Upset alert.
I might go insane.
I think you're already there.
There's no hope. Hope is gone.
If this was an AFC North podcast, we'd be done in 15 minutes.
Bob Hope. I'm going to drink bleach.
That it?
Be the team you promised me you were going to be this year!
This is the Consciously Hopeful podcast.
I'll be watching.